Hi guys, it's Blackie and welcome back to Mastering the Dutch Oven Cooking Series. And today I'm going to answer a couple of questions real quick because I may have misspoke and got somebody in trouble. So let me clarify a couple of things right quick. Okay? First off, it's difficult teaching off the top of the bat how to do a Dutch oven through a video because of the fact that you're doing multiple things simultaneously to be able to do the actual cooking. Okay? And I want to go over that a minute and clarify this a little bit. Okay? And for today's pointer, we will be using my WC Blackbird knife. Shameless plug there. Okay. And we will hang our StitchGear.com 6-way sheath right there on the tripod while we do this. And I'm out at the range today, don't worry, nobody's shooting at Blackie today. Alright, the three things that are going on simultaneously are heat source. Are we using flames? Are we using hardwood coals? That's from a hardwood fire. Are we using lump charcoal? Are we using charcoal briquettes? Are we using hot ashes from a fire? Each one of those does a different job. So they can overlap where you can use the briquettes, the lump charcoal hard, for interchangeability to a point. The flames are used, and here we go into what are we doing with the Dutch oven, second column. If we are boiling, flames are the first choice because that generates intense heat and there's a lot of liquid there, so it's not going to burn to the bottom. And flames onto the base of the Dutch oven actually would induce a good rolling boil, say, for something that's like broths or chicken and dumplings. They're not terrible thick yet. Boiling, you know what boiling is, okay? Hardwood coals are better for roasts and things like that because they give an intense heat that lasts a long time. Okay? Stewing, lump charcoal or hardwood or charcoal briquettes. Stewing is where it's mostly liquid and we're doing it for a longer time to therefore let the tough meat soften up. That's what stewing means, is to soften it up, basically. Baking, usually fairly quickly. Baking usually does in like 20 to 30 minutes at tops. And so therefore our coals need to be a little on the cooler side, like the charcoal and the briquettes. You're not going to use flames to bake because it would burn it. It's much too much heat. And so we're looking at longer run time here, but a lower temperature, I should say, and a little bit of a longer cook time, like 20 to 30 minutes, of holding a certain heat level. No spikes, no cools, right there in the middle. Okay. Reheating and warming. This can be done where and I'm going to demonstrate this in an upcoming video, of where I have got leftovers and I'm wanting to reheat them in a Dutch oven. There's several different ways I can do that. Or I've cooked something in a Dutch oven first and now I have to do something else, or someone else is preparing and I got to hold mine at a certain layer, keeping it warm, waiting for them to get done. And that's where the hot ashes and stuff can come, where I can bake hot ashes all the way around and insulate that Dutch oven and hold the heat, like putting a cozy around a bush pot or something to hold that heat longer and not let it keep cooking. I don't want it overdone, but at the same time I don't want it to get cold. I'm wanting to hold it at a warm eating temperature a long time. That's where hot ashes come in, stuff like that. And again, reheating, like I'm taking something out of the cooler that was cooked yesterday and I have saved the leftovers. Now I'm going to reheat it. We can immersion heat. I can put water into the Dutch oven, set the container into the Dutch oven, if it's a glass container, and then using flames, bring that water up to a boil and let it reheat what's inside the container. We're going to demonstrate that. And then finally, the third thing you're trying to balance all of this at the same time is following a recipe. What to add, when to add, etc. See? You cook this first and you take that out and you add this in, and you got to follow a recipe. So you're having to do heat regulation. What am I doing in the Dutch oven? and I got to follow a recipe. You can see how complicated this could get really quickly that way. Now, on this, am I using canned meat, which I'll be doing in the very next cooking video, which is coming up this week. If I'm using a pre-made product that I'm just transforming into something else, we're going to talk about that. Or how about canned bread, like canned biscuits? You know, I'm baking canned biscuits using charcoal briquettes because I want a quick meal, a quick breakfast. I don't want to have to build up a big old fire. So I need heat regulation, charcoal briquettes, or something equivalent. I'm baking, so I got to set the Dutch oven up for baking, and I'm using a pre-made up dough where I don't have to follow a recipe or assemble it. It's already assembled. See, that's the simplest, 1, 2, 3. But you got to dance all three of these. Each one of these is a balancing act to make sure that we're on target with what we want. We don't want too much heat, too little heat, which is going to extend the cooking time. We don't want to be trying to cook handmade biscuits, you know, big old cat head biscuits from hardwood coals whenever we got to start from scratch and build a fire, like I spoke about in the last video. You know, it's what we got. When we're camping and it's winter and we're keeping a campfire going, we have a supply of flames and hardwood coals ready to go, right? Well, that's the perfect time to be baking these long things where I'm going to have to cook over a long time, like roasts. And might have to cook an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I'm going to have to keep changing the coals. Realizing my heat's dropping down. Take the old coals off, add fresh coals back on or underneath, see. And we're going to deal with that in the upcoming. But those three factors, each individual thing, you've got to keep running in your head simultaneously. It can be as simple as using a canned meat product and just using charcoal briquettes or even a little bit of flame for some sort of reheating of cans, you know, dumping in several cans of golly, not beanie weenies. I'm having a senior moment here. You got it on camera. Pork and beans, there it is. I won't say beanie weenies, but pork and beans. Dumping a couple of cans of pork and beans in and then adding onion and adding other thing. That's kind of a recipe, but I'm using stuff that's basically cooked and I'm just combining and heating. In which case, all I'm doing is really reheating and warming it and letting those flavors minge. That's super simple. On the other hand, I'm starting from scratch, an in-depth type thing, like a roast that's got all kinds of garlic and stuff in it, and it's going to need to slow cook for 3 or 4 hours for that, all those juices and all those flavors to blend in. I got to be real careful on my heat, make sure I'm keeping my temperature right where I want it to be so it's constantly cooking real slow but not flaring up, and at the same time I got to make sure that my meat is browning properly or that my juices don't run out, etc. That's the higher skill level. So you just got to focus on what it is. So that's one of the reasons it's difficult. Someone had said, I don't see what's so hard about it. You know, I see a lot of channels. Well, a lot of times they're teaching you just a recipe. And you see them come out and they put the Dutch oven out there and they throw some coals on it, and 10 minutes later they lift the lid off and they go, see, it's done. And that's great, but they're not touching on how you got to keep that heat regulated. We're going to deal with that. And you got to follow a recipe where there's 15 steps you got to do to get to the final dish. We'll get to it, but that's where we're at. And the most important one that I haven't hammered on before, but I need to right now. When you have completed, okay, you've dipped your food out of the Dutch oven, and you're now serving up for everybody. I said the best thing to do then is put water back in it and put it back on the fire, bring it to a boil to help clean it, make it easier to clean. But I did not hammer this home. Hot pot has to be hot water. Let me say that again. If the pot is hot, if that Dutch oven is hot, you got to put hot water in it. The quickest way to break kryptonite to a Dutch oven is cold water into a hot Dutch oven. It will crack. These are not steel, they are cast iron. Understand that. Cast, that means they make it in a mold. Just like you used to do a Play-Doh when you were a kid in that little mold thing. They inject molten cast iron into a mold, and then whenever it's at right temperature, they eject it out and let it cool and finish it up. And yes, it's hard and it's tough and it's durable and it's great. But kryptonite to Dutch ovens is to be really hot and then suddenly introduce something really cold. So taking a Dutch oven and taking all the food out of it, and that sucker's piping hot, and sitting it in snow can crack it. Pouring cold water into it can crack it. So if the pot is hot, you've got to put hot water in it. That's when you keep that little coffee pot of hot water sitting on the side of the fire just for this, for cleanup time. Now during the summertime, whenever it's 85 degrees out here, the water is 85 or so degrees, and you know that's not such a big thing. It is a thing whenever you're getting down close to freezing and that water is ice cold. When you pour it out of that canteen in there, you can crack it. And I had an individual that had been following my is still following my channel, that contacted me and asked me to kind of ram this home, because that's exactly what he recently did. He had dug out his Dutch oven and was doing stuff, and he had cooked something in the backyard using charcoal briquettes, and he's way up in Canada. And he said it was 42 that morning, and as soon as I got done, I dumped water into it, and it cracked across the bottom. And so you have to keep that in mind. Okay? Now, let me show one other thing. Okay, this is my Dutch oven. This is my 8-inch Dutch oven. This is not really a Dutch oven. It kind of looks like it. Yes, it's got that dome lid that we talked about. But if you also notice, there's hardly any lip right here. This is a camp kettle, not a Dutch oven. They look similar, but this lid you just slide on and off. This lid will not, because you see that great big rim right there? This is meant you can cook on a fire, stews, things like that. And yes, technically, you could sit it onto some coals and mound some coals up on it and make it act like a Dutch oven, but this is not truly a Dutch oven. And because of that, the walls are thinner and stuff like that. This is meant, and see how I lifted it, lifting the lid? This is meant to be just a big cook pot, a stew pot or something like that. And in this is, when you're looking at thrift stores and stuff like that, this is the Dutch oven you want, not this. Notice it has no legs. This goes flat onto a stove or in a stove or something like that to cook. But this is basically a kettle. It's a camp kettle. That is a Dutch oven. And so be sure what you're buying. This is likely to crack because it's so thin if you try to do a lot of heating and coolings of baking in the coals and stuff like that, because it is so thin. This is thicker wall designed to handle that. That's the difference. So, I hope that clears that up. I apologize if I did not stress enough about, if the pot's hot, put hot water in it. Keep a coffee pot or like a 2-quart bush pot full of hot water right there at the stove with you whenever you're cooking, to be able to clean off, hose off, that type of thing. You got hot water you can immediately put in. And if you're cooking something and the water has, due to steam, the water level's got a little low in the pot and it's still cooking, add in warm water. Okay, if the pot's hot, add hot water. I hope that helps you. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.